Hi you guys, welcome to my kitchen. Okay, so you want to learn how to make some bread? Let's see if we can make it happen today. You're going to have some Irish music going in the background because I really can't bake without my Irish music going. And you're going to have to deal with my accent, so if there's something you can't understand, you'll figure it out. Also, for those under the age of 18, if there's a word or two that comes out, your parents can explain that to you as well. So, what you need is really basic. We're going to make some basic white bread. You don't even need milk for this recipe. This is our self-isolation bread, so if you've run out of milk and you happen to have the rest of the ingredients in the house, then you're laughing. You need a big bowl. That's the first thing you need. You need a wooden spoon, a spatula. If you don't have a wooden spoon and you only have a metal spoon, it'll work too. No worries. You're going to need a couple tablespoons and a teaspoon or a half teaspoon. This is a half teaspoon. We'll make a teaspoon work if that's all you have. So for today's bread, you're going to need 8.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 cups of water at body temperature, so about 97 degrees, 98 degrees, 2 tablespoons of yeast, a tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Yes, I am reading the recipe off because I don't always remember. And 2.5 tablespoons of sugar, or you should have some Hive and Hearthstone honey in your pantry, and that's what I'm going to use today. All right, first thing, because of course it's, you know, COVID-19, we're going to do some hand washing, so stand by. All right, so hands have had a good scrub, and we're just going to get started here. So basically all you're going to do is take your 3 cups of warm water and put it in your big bowl. And you're going to add your yeast to that. So it, again, is 2 tablespoons of yeast. Sprinkle it around pretty good. You want to distribute it throughout the water. And then just give it a little bit of a stir to mix it in. Don't make your water too hot because it will actually cook your yeast and kill your yeast. So you don't want to be killing your yeast, as it's a commodity right now for a lot of people. And we want to preserve what we have, especially this kind of stuff, till we know we can get more. So you're just going to let that sit for a few minutes and let it get foamy, and that just tells you that your yeast is alive, and we will continue from there. I promise this is going to be painless. Trust me. So a couple minutes have passed and my yeast is getting nice and foamy. I don't really know if you can see that too well. Let's see what we can do here. Nice and foamy. So to that, you are going to add 1 tablespoon of your sugar. If sugar is what you have, then you add 1 tablespoon of sugar. If you happen to have honey and you want to use honey, then add 1 tablespoon of your honey. And this is where your spatula comes in handy. And all you're going to do is it's feeding the sugar, or the sugar is feeding the yeast, so that it gives it some food to kind of grab onto there. So we'll give that a little stir around, make sure everything's incorporated. And to this we're going to add our melted butter, so 2 tablespoons of melted butter. For friends that are vegan, obviously you can use a vegan butter of some sort. I'm not really familiar with what's on the market, as we're not vegan in this home, but I do know there are options out there, and you can eliminate the honey and just add the sugar. So we're going to give that a good mix around. And what I like to do at this point, just clean up some of this so you guys can see better, is I like to add a cup of the flour. So we're going to make a little bit of a slurry right now, and I'm going to switch over to my wooden spoon. And basically what I'm going to do is mix in that 1 cup fairly decently. It's okay if you still have some lumps. You won't by the time we're done. these out of our way. And the reason you needed the spoons was because, of course, I pre-measured everything out. I will make sure the recipe is on the post, and you will need those spoons to do your measurements. I just kind of wanted to speed things up and get it going here for you guys. So this is what it's going to look like. Again, right? It's got some lumps and some bumps. That's okay. I promise you won't by the end. So to this, because we've added a slurry, we're actually going to add our salt. So it is a half a teaspoon of salt. And the reason we add the salt later is because if you add salt on top of live yeast, when it's still in that kind of granulated form, it's actually going to kill your yeast. So I'm going to add now the rest of my honey. And we want to make sure we get all the goodness out. This is such a basic recipe. You guys are going to go, why have I not been making my own bread all along? I know, right? I'm crazy. But trust me, you will love it. Okay. So that's the rest of our honey. Add it in. And basically all we're going to do at this point is start adding our 8.5 cups of flour. Now I like to add roughly a cup at a time because some days you need a little more, some days you need a little less. Some people say it depends on the weather. I say it depends on the bread making fairies and what mood they're in. So we'll give it a good stir, and we're going to add another one. And we're just going to keep adding and stirring until we get to a consistency we want. So here's after a few cups of flour. This is what we're starting to look like. So it's a goopy mess, really. Oh, and before I forget, make sure you cover your head. I have a thing about hair in my bread. Makes me a little nuts. If you don't have a bandana or a handkerchief, you can always do like my grandparents did growing up in Newfoundland, and my grandma and my mom, they would use a pair of underwear on their head if they had to cover their head or their hair. So use the leg holes for your ear holes and tie a knot in the back. Use whatever works, people. Just keep that hair covered. Okay, so we're going to continue to add, and yes, I did say they wore underwear on their head. Yes, I did. So we're going to continue to add, and as we continue to add, it's going to get a little thicker. So here's what it's starting to look like. And yeah, it's messy, but that's okay. We're in the kitchen and we're baking. It can always be cleaned up later. Let the kids get in there, get their hands into this once we're ready to dump it out. And there's no reason they can't learn at a young age, right? I remember making bread with my grandma and my mom, and they would always let me get in there and help, and I would always be given a little dough ball at the end so I could make my own loaf. So it's learning from Nan and Mom. It's how I learned and why I do it today. So before I add any more, today is going to be a less flour day in my house. So as you can see, it's really starting to come together. It's starting to get really thick. Okay, so we're going to add probably half a cup this time, because we want to slow down now. We can always continue to add, but we can't take away. That's the problem. So let us, as you can see, it's really starting to form a nice ball here. Still a shaggy mess, but that's okay. We're going to add the other half a cup. And I think at this point, because this is what it looks like, let me show you. It is a bit of a shaggy mess, but I think it's close enough now that I can start handling it with my hands. So, I'm not going to completely stick to it. And as you can see, because I don't count, and I have no idea how many cups I've added. I did have 8.5 cups measured in my bowl. And I've probably got, I don't know, 3 good cups left. But that's okay, because we're going to use some here shortly. So I just want to put a little bit on my spoon to get all the sticky off. Just makes handling it a little easier. And sink that goes. So what we're going to do at this point, and yeah, you have to get your hands in this. You have to get messy. We're going to add some flour to our counter. And I'm generous because at this point it's still a pretty sticky dough. And basically all I'm going to do is dump this out. Shake all the bits out. Depends on you how much you want to clean your bowl out. I like to give it a good clean. But if I have bits left in there, oh well, there's bits left in there. Alright, we're just going to put our bowl to the side for now. And so you've got this shaggy mess of dough, and all we're going to start doing is working with it. So when you scoop it up, you knead it down. Don't squeeze it with your fingers like it's Play-Doh or something like that. Kind of is the adult form of Play-Doh, but you want to make sure you've always got flour under that. So your counter always has to be floured. And remember, you have flour sitting here in a bowl, right? So don't be afraid to add some to your counter, because at this stage you're building the gluten in your flour. So you're going to take the heel of your hand, palm of your hand, whatever you want to call it, this area here, and you're going to push down, and you're going to give it a quarter turn and push down, and you're just going to continue to give it those quarter turns and push down. And if you've got straggly bits like this, just add them in. It's no big deal. This is not a science test that people are going to be judged on. It's going to be beautiful bread that you're going to make for your family, and they're going to love you for it, because during all this uncertainty right now, you're going to make beautiful fresh bread, and your family is going to have beautiful toast and sandwiches. So keep kneading. This is going to take a bit. Keep putting your flour, and again, right, I've got some shaggy bits, so I just put them on top and fold them in, and I just keep adding my flour underneath, and I'm just going to keep kneading. So I'm basically pushing with the palm of my hand, and as you can see, it's starting to come together into a beautiful ball. It doesn't take long. This bread's pretty utilitarian, and pretty much anybody can make it. Even, yes, you, Janine, my sister, you can make it. Don't be laughing. You can do it. So keep kneading, pulling quarter turns up. And you're going to have some sticky bits still in there. You'll feel it kind of stick to your hand when you pull away. It's okay. You're just developing gluten, and you are creating a beautiful crumb right now. So when you cut this bread, it'll be light and fluffy and airy. So keep going. Everybody's going to have their own amount of time that they do this for, because everybody needs at a different strength, right? So because I can do it in so many minutes doesn't mean you can. I've been doing it a lot longer. So keep kneading. Again, right? Push all this flour, gather it up, and just keep it under. It just keeps it from sticking to your counter, and it's adding flour into your ball of dough. And notice I am at no point squeezing into the dough. I'm using the palm and the heel of my hand. It takes practice, but you'll do it. Okay, so I'm starting to get to a point where I can feel my dough tighten. And you will feel this once you keep going. It's just constantly in a circle, kneading. Do not squeeze the dough. Keep the fingers from clenching. A lot of people have that habit. And all you're doing is tearing into your gluten when you're doing that. So see how it's starting to really tighten up. You guys can see how this started with a shaggy mass, but now it's starting to really kind of come together and form its own little ball, right? I'm still not quite where I want to be. Let's move some of this out of the way, because I want a nice smooth surface on my dough, and I'm not quite there yet. So I'm going to take a little bit of fresh dough, or flour, sorry, put it in the middle, and we're going to start again. And even just a couple turns, you can really feel the dough tightening. And that's a good thing. At this stage in the game, it's a very good thing. So keep kneading. We're starting to get a smoother surface. And one of the ways that I can tell if my dough is ready to go is the poke test. So if you poke your dough with your finger and it immediately bounces back, keep kneading. You're not ready to go. If you poke the dough with your finger and it doesn't bounce back at all, keep going. You're not done yet, so keep kneading. If you poke your dough and it bounces back a little bit, but it leaves an indentation, you're pretty much there. So I'm just going to give this another couple rounds. A little bit more fresh flour. And I think I am pretty much there. So see how I've got this lovely round, beautiful ball of dough, nice and smooth on the top, right? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take the bowl that I used to mix everything, because we don't want to do any more dishes than we have to. You can spray it with cooking spray. You can put butter in it. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to put my dough back in. So I'm going to take it, put it butt side down. So basically butt side down is the side that was on the counter. We're going to put that down there, and now you have a couple choices. We have to let this rise for 30 minutes for the first rise. So you can cover your bowl in saran wrap, or if you're not wanting to use saran wrap because of environmental reasons, everyone has tea towels. So cover with a clean tea towel. Make sure it's a clean tea towel. And I like to use 2 and cover it in both directions. That way I know the air is not going to get to my bread, because if you let the air get to this, it's going to form a crust on your dough, and that's just yucky. You don't want to be working with that, and no one wants to eat that. So make sure it's covered from the air. Put it in a warm place that has no drafts, and I will see you guys in 30 minutes. Hi. Okay, so it's been a little bit more than 30 minutes because I got sidetracked and did some other things. Hands have been scrubbed, and this is what we've got. It's more than doubled in size, and you can see how absolutely beautiful it is. So let us, these over here, we're going to put just a little bit of flour on our counter, and we're going to take this out of our bowl, and we're going to help it. We don't really want it to pull itself out because we don't want to damage that beautiful gluten and stretch things and tear it that we've taken the time to develop. So we're going to take that out, and we're just going to flour our hands a little bit, and we're just going to knead it just a bit. Doesn't need to be long. Just pushing it down, quarter turns in the circle, and that's pretty much it. So again, right, it's a beautiful smooth surface, absolutely gorgeous. We're going to put it arch side down back in the bowl that we just took it out of, and it's going to rise for another 30. Oops, forgot to tell you, make sure you cover it with your tea towels because we don't want the air getting at it. So again, remember, clean tea towels, both directions, keeping the air off. Okay, now I'll see you in 30 minutes.